Good evening. Call the meeting to order.
Welcome to Nixa City Hall. This video is going to provide you with an overview of how the City of Nixa conducts City Council meetings. We encourage everyone to attend and participate in City Council meetings. This is part of how democracy works at the local level, listening to the perspectives of subject matter experts, city residents, and other community members helps our elected leaders make more informed decisions. Before we start the meeting, let's review some of Council's rules of order. These rules help us make sure our meetings are orderly and efficient, while protecting the ability of everyone to have an opportunity to speak. Please be respectful of the person speaking and hold your own comments until it is your turn to speak. Presenters are invited by the Council to provide information during the meeting to the Council. These are informational presentations only, and nothing will be voted on at the time of the presentation. Presenters are not time limited. There are 2 times when all other visitors will be able to speak to Council. The first is during the visitors section of the agenda, and the second is during any public hearing regarding an agenda item. During the visitors section, anyone may speak to Council about any topic, whereas the public hearings regarding specific agenda items allow you to make comments for Council to consider before they make a decision on that topic. Whether you wish to speak during any public hearing or the visitors section, the following rules of order will apply. 1. Only one person should speak at a time. Be respectful of the person speaking and wait to speak until it is your turn. 2. Anyone speaking must do so from the podium and speak into the microphone. 3. You must first state your name and provide your address in writing to the city clerk before beginning your comments. 4. All speakers will be given 5 minutes to make their comments to the Council. The mayor or council may have additional questions for speakers after this 5-minute period. 5. All comments should be addressed to the mayor and council. 6. If you have questions about existing city processes, programs, or policies, or if you need assistance from staff on any issue, please contact City Hall during normal business hours and we'll be happy to assist you or answer any questions you may have at that time. The public hearing is designed to provide the public an opportunity to provide testimony and information to the mayor and council regarding the decisions they may be considering. Keep in mind this meeting will be recorded and live streamed with video and audio. Therefore, all comments relevant to this meeting must be spoken into a microphone, otherwise video viewers will not be able to hear you. In the case of a closed session or technical difficulties, some meetings or portions of meetings may not actually be recorded or streamed. The use of cell phones during council meetings is discouraged, so please silence all devices now. Thank you for watching, and thank you for engaging with the City of Nixa. The meeting will begin shortly.
Matt Ogden.
Here.
Sean Lucas.
Here.
Aaron Peterson.
Here.
Darlene Graham.
Here.
Zern Vess.
Here. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, if everyone has had a minute to review the consent agenda, would anyone like to remove anything from this month's consent agenda? None, I will accept a motion.
So made. Second.
First by Mr. Lucas, second by Ms. Graham. Roll call, please.
Darlene Graham.
Yeah, here. Yes.
Aaron Peterson.
Yes.
Kelly Morris.
Yes.
Sean Lucas.
Yes.
Matt Ogden.
Yes.
Zern Vess.
Yes.
Okay, the first thing up tonight, and we are a day late reading this, but we needed to get this proclamation out in time for Ronald McDonald House. So whereas Springfield's 2 Ronald McDonald House programs have provided a home away from home and an invaluable source of hope and comfort for families of seriously ill and injured children who must travel far from home for medical treatment, and whereas the 2 Ronald McDonald Houses located in Springfield, Missouri, allow their guests to maintain close contact with their seriously ill children by providing a secure and supportive environment at no required cost, and whereas the Ronald McDonald House near Cox South and the house near Mercy Kids have served the needs of 490 Christian County families, 118 of which are residents of Nixa, Missouri, and whereas on Wednesday, January 24th, 2024, 70 McDonald's restaurants and various other locations will begin showing their support by asking customers to share their heart by adopting a $1, $5, and $20 to Ronald McDonald House Charities of the Ozarks through the Share the Heart campaign. And whereas the following generous contributions have provided sponsorships, finding and underwritten the cost for the Share the Heart campaign: McDonald's of the Ozarks, KY3 Television, Great Southern Bank, Med-Am Metal Forming, and Color Graphic Printing. And whereas McDonald's of Nixa is participating in the Share the Heart campaign, which will continue through February 29th of 2024. Now therefore, I, Jared Giddens, Mayor for the City of Nixa, do hereby proclaim February 12th through February 18th as Ronald McDonald House Week. And I believe we have Justin Wilson. Is he here? All right. Those are always fun. We actually did a proclamation over the weekend at the Mike Super show. I don't know if any of you guys have ever seen Mike Super, but he's a really cool magician, and he made up his own word, Lavinus. He said it can mean about anything, so we now have a Lavinus Day in the city of Nixa, and it has now made like national attention because he shared it on his Facebook page, so go Nixa. Okay, we will open up the visitors section, so if you would like to speak on something that is not on the agenda, feel free to do so. Do we have any that have signed up?
Ron Sanders.
Good evening. My name is Ron Sanders, and I will be brief tonight. I live at 976 Glen Oaks Drive here in Nixa. Here to talk about Robert's rules and to motion or not to motion. I do believe that we are operating under Robert's rules, correct? I remember we passed something along that route. There is no requirement for an elected official to make a motion to start something. And there is no requirement for a city council member or anybody to second a motion, which means that anything that comes up on the consent agenda can die before it's even voted on. Just wanted to remind you all of that. Because sometimes, in extraordinary times, I should say, it's necessary. And it's necessary to look out for the best interests of the people who are here, who have spent their lives, developing their property, paying for their property, in hopes that their property would increase in value. And we have to make sure that our system of governance looks out for them first, looks out for them primarily. Okay, I'm not just talking about residents, I'm talking about everybody who's already here. And sometimes, to make that system work properly, you may have to abstain from making a motion or seconding a motion. That's all I wanted to let y'all know. Have a good evening.
Thank you. All right, no one else has signed up, but if you would like to, you still can. Feel free to come up. All right, fair enough. I will close the visitor section. All right, first up on the agenda, second reading, Council Bill 2024-05.
Second reading Council Bill number 2024-05, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Nixa rezoning the real property generally located at the northeast corner of South Highway 160 and West Sunrise Drive from an Office O district to a general commercial GC district. Presenting is Planning and Development Director Scott Goppy.
Mayor, Council, good evening. I did submit an updated council memo. The only changes to it were to the Planning and Zoning Commission section where I updated the events that took place at the regular Planning and Zoning Commission meeting regarding this item. And I did also submit an updated visual map for reference. Again, the only changes to that were that there was 2 agenda items on that map. One of those agenda items was a minor subdivision. That minor subdivision was voted on and approved at the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. So therefore, the only thing on the map, if Drew can scroll down to the map, is just the agenda item that we're looking at tonight, which is the rezone. So those were the only changes on the updated information that I have provided. So this is regarding Lot 34 of the Shady Acres PUD. This is a different type of PUD than what we're used to dealing with currently. This subdivision is a plan unit development because at the time the city required, if you were platting residential and commercial on the same plat, it required you call it a PUD basically. So there's no governing document, anything other than what city code requires on this one. You can see the surrounding zoning. There is general commercial to the west, highway commercial to the north. To the south is Sunrise Drive, but there's general commercial to the south, along with single-family residential to the south and to the east. This request is only for Lot 34, which is the purple zoned lot there, which is zoned office currently. There is another lot that is still going to be, that is not involved with this, that is also zoned office and will remain as is, which is the further east one. This property does have all Nixa utilities provided on it, and they are of sufficient capacity to provide for any development necessary. There is Sunrise Drive. The paved surface for Sunrise Drive is actually measured 40 feet in width, which is 10 feet larger than any of our local roads, which Sunrise Drive is classified as a local road. It also carries a 60-foot right-of-way, which is, again, not typical of a local road in our community. Typically, it's just 50 feet of right-of-way for a local road. So this was designed to a slightly higher standard than your traditional local road. Per section 115-133, since this is a local road, a traffic impact study is not required. But there is language in our tech spec manual that does allow, once construction plans are submitted, staff is able to view how intense the development is, and staff could have require a traffic impact study at that time. It's not necessarily something at this time because right now we're just looking at the zoning aspect of it, not development of it. There is no development plan submitted for this property at this time. So stormwater management. At the time this subdivision was developed, the property owner or the developer at the time did do a stormwater buyout for these 4 non-residential lots, and it also covered a portion of the single-family lots to the east as well. Basically, that means there will be no on-site detention required. They did an analysis and provided payment in lieu of on-site detention. So at the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, which was held February 5th, concerned citizens approached the commission to voice their opposition to the rezone. There was a variety of different concerns related to traffic, dangers posed to kids in the area, and just general safety in the community. With all that considered, the Planning and Zoning Commission did vote unanimously to recommend approval. Staff does recommend approval, as this does conform to our future land use map, which shows this area as just zone general commercial. But it is also just an extension of the zoning arrangement that is currently in the area. If you have any questions, I'm available.
So this office zoning, I've been looking a lot into that, and there seems like there's, I believe, only 3 places in the city that have office zoning. And I know not really sure why office zoning was used, considering it's not used anymore all over. If you were to, I guess what I'm trying to ask is, if you were to change office zoning or compare it to a current zoning that we normally use, what would it be?
It would be probably close to a neighborhood commercial zoning. All uses that are allowed in the office zoning are allowed in our commercial zoning. Mainly, I only reference to our general commercial zoning district, but they are allowed in the general commercial zoning district. But due to the scale that I've seen, or the intent of what the office zoning district is, I would probably closely relate it to a neighborhood commercial.
Would you typically recommend neighborhood commercial that close to a highway? And I'm thinking kind of long-term, whenever, because the comprehensive plan is going on right now, are they going to, not that you know everything that they're going to do, but would they come back with neighborhood commercial next to kind of the main thoroughfare through the city?
There's always that potential. Highway 160, predominantly if you look at the zoning map, has highway commercial along it. So seeing general commercial is a little bit of an oddball, but this is kind of disconnected from the main core of Nixa, our commercial districts. So it wouldn't surprise me if they recommended neighborhood commercial in this area with it being adjacent to single family, but we have many instances throughout the city where even on this map there's highway commercial, although undeveloped, it is adjacent to single-family residential. So we do see that throughout the city, even in undeveloped highway commercial property. Same thing with general commercial. These do abut single-family residential as well.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? All right. Thank you, Mr. Gobby.
Thank you.
All right, if there are no other questions, we will open up the public hearing. So we will go by who has signed up first, and then anyone who hasn't signed up, if you would like to get up and speak, feel free to do so. Just make sure you sign a card. You can do it after, and just make sure with this many people here, stay within the 5 minutes. I will tell you, your 5 minutes does pause if you're asked questions from myself or the council. So Drew will be really good about pressing pause. Right, Drew? All right, good deal. All right, first up.
Jacob Stauffer.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and members of the council. I am the developer for the project. We're the applicant here. And our council will speak later in more detail. But again, we've been over this several times. This property is abutted on 3 sides by existing commercial. It's part of your comprehensive land use plan that it shall be commercial. And again, we're only talking about zoning here, so any building we do in the future will comply with all codes, whether it be MoDOT or City of Nixa codes. I get that the heartache you're going to hear tonight. I mean, I've done this well over 1,000 times. This is the nature of zoning, is that it's transitional. I mean, there are edges to every zoning, and on those edges, there's always conflict. My last house was behind the Menards, where they built a Costco in Springfield, and I was on 5 acres surrounded by 80 undeveloped acres, and it didn't take a huge crystal ball to see what was happening, so I decided to move. I'm not suggesting that anybody move, but the nature of land here that's been held for sale for a number of years is that you can, if it's by you and you don't want it developed, you can either buy it or you can be a good neighbor. And part of being a good neighbor is letting land be used in its highest and best use. That's part of the law of the state of Missouri. What we're doing here is consistent with your laws, your plans. I mean, I've grown up in Southwest Missouri, and Christian County has always been either the fastest or second fastest growing community in the state of Missouri. And with that growth comes growing pains. And, I'm here to invest in your community. We want to be a good neighbor. But what we think we're doing here is consistent with, being a good neighbor, investing in your community, providing jobs, and, going along with your plan. So I'm open for questions, but.
Any questions?
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Justin Darty.
Mr. Mayor, ladies and gentlemen of the council, thank you for having me here. I appreciate y'all. I was born in Springfield, Missouri, so I'm not a Nixa native nor a Christian County native. In quite honesty, Nixa, Springfield, we kind of butted heads. Didn't like y'all. But I came here and I moved here and I met my wife and 2 beautiful boys. And then we moved here in this neighborhood and we developed family and friends. And I don't know of any other community that can do that, to have neighbors become family, such as the Coles. And there's teachers, veterans, truck drivers, loving people, and all these. I don't see squares, I see lives. My children are on all those corners, on bus stops, all along Sunrise. You might as well call Sunrise a highway because it is wide. And putting a business there, commercial in it, whatever you guys are going to do, it's not okay. And I ask you all to just at least do what's right in your decision making. And this is our lives. And I think it's awesome to see ladies and gentlemen of the city of Nixa sitting here in this room for a general cause and coming together. Quite frankly, probably most of them are here for this reason. And then that's great, and I don't know a lot of communities that do that. We are Nixa, and we are proud. Let's remember that. Remember what's best for our city, not what's going to go in there. Yield my time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lynn Henderson.
My name's Lynn Henderson, and I live in Shady Acres. When I moved to Nixa, we had Nixa Bank, Nixa Hardware, the small price cutter, the Dairy Queen, and a car wash. So I have seen a lot of growth in Nixa, and I'm proud of it. And I've enjoyed watching Nixa grow. I have no opposition to the growth of Nixa. I'm proud of it. Not all growth is the right growth. And as the gentleman stated before, we have small children getting on the buses right there where where he wants to zone as a commercial for a big box store. We're going to have semi-trucks coming in and out. Little children cannot be seen from the top of a cab of a semi-truck. I really feel like our children are going to be in danger with this rezoning, and I respectfully ask for you to please consider the safety of our kids over growth that is not the right growth for our city or for our neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you.
Pastor Jerry Duval.
Mayor, council members, we look at this and we've got a lot of boxes up there. We're the big red box at the bottom, Highway 60, if you're coming from the south and you turn in on Sunrise Drive. How many wrecks we had there this year? We didn't do a traffic study. We have a brand new guardrail there about every month. That's problem number one. I grew up in Republic, spent a lot of time in Nixa. But I can tell you that these people bought homes on those little boxes based on the fact that, there's commercial property there along Highway 60. They probably looked at that site map along with the zoning committee way back when and decided, if we have a general commercial in the front, offices in the back half, it'll lessen the impact of destruction upon those home buyers, those families. There's more than that in this whole thing. It really appears that may be a hasty vote tonight, guys, regarding the rezoning of the commercial properties. There's not much difference between them. Why are they pushing them so hard? They want general commercial so somebody can come in and buy the whole thing. And that's fine if it was someplace else. But as you can tell, these people are concerned about what you're doing there. When you do that, you're going to introduce commercial traffic. It's zoned small enough now, the commercial traffic will be limited to the highway in that corner only. When you increase it, it will not. So as we look at the zoning committee, we need to look at, have we thoroughly investigated? We haven't done an impact study. Not until after we sell the property to whoever we're going to sell it to are we going to start looking at impact. That's kind of putting the cart before the horse a little bit. But first I want to emphasize that 160 Sunrise is one of the most dangerous intersections in Nixa. And introducing increased traffic, especially commercial traffic at that intersection, is likely to lead to a lot more accidents, a lot more deaths that we have to account for at the end of the year. But it's not conducive to the neighborhood as well, and we have a detrimental impact on that area as well for potentially damaging the streets. It may be wider, but it's not better. Disrupting the community and even increasing crime and endangering youth when you start implying commercial property of that size. So the quality of life and the rezoning from those office buildings to general commercial so somebody can buy the whole plot, it's going to significantly affect the quality of life for the residents in the neighborhoods. The influx of commercial property may even bring with it increased noise, traffic, disruption. It's going to change the peaceful neighborhood. But preserving the neighborhood and its character in that neighborhood is important to the home buyers because, yeah, they may have to move, but as soon as you introduce that, their property values automatically go down. But we have some major traffic concerns, and there's a lot of them, and we haven't done due diligence on it. So there's significant concerns about traffic safety, particularly the increased commercial activity. We're going to have semi-trucks moving in and out, and if you look, there's nowhere for them to turn around. They're going to have to pull up into the street, back up, and that first intersection and the second intersection are both bus stops by Nixa schools. Do we really want to put those children in that kind of danger? Also, we're looking at increased accidents. If they pull out going south or going north from Sunrise onto 160, you're looking at a lot of rear-end collisions right there. Because you guys all need to go up there and drive from Branson, coming down 160, make that right-hand turn on Sunrise Drive, and realize the impact that you're putting in that corner. The impact on the local institutions as well, recognizing it would be a negative impact on our church because it's my congregation to have to make that corner every day. But it also negatively impacts the church in a couple other ways. If you'd have done enough study, you'd have found that we were looking to open up Nixa Christian Academy there too. So now we have a Christian academy, a church, a neighborhood that will be affected by opening that zoning up to general commercial. Where it's at now, we can have general commercial in those first two lots or that first lot. I would recommend leaving the back two lots the way they are so that we have office buildings and it doesn't impact that area with commercial vehicles and commercial structure. Something to consider. So with those things involved, I urge the council to postpone, if not, vote no for until further investigation can be done to this. I'd pray that you vote no.
Thank you.
Maria Anderson.
Good evening, Council. After reviewing the video of our last meeting addressing this bill, I'd like to address a few items. Unfortunately, there was no audio or transcript for the first 30 minutes. This did not allow citizens to review any statements or information shared by Mr. Godby and the report given by Nixa's Planning and Development Department. Next, I'll address statements made by Mr. Collins. He continuously avoids any concerns about the traffic for a large commercial lot. He states he is perplexed on how turning 3 smaller individual lots into one large commercial lot would bring more traffic to the area. By rejecting this practical concern, what he is really saying is that he does not have a solution to this issue. There is legitimate concern about traffic turning on and off of 160 where the speed limit is 60 miles per hour, as well as the increase in traffic rezoning will yield on Main Street, which is narrow with no shoulders or sidewalks. I have made public records requests to the city to see if a traffic assessment has been done. At this time, I do not have a response. City council members may have information on this issue, but we do not. If there has not been an assessment, I would request that this decision not be made until one is complete. This is an important issue. Next, let's address Mr. Collins' statement that the rezoning supports long-term goals of Nixa's comprehensive plan for economic opportunity and that this would be the highest and best use of the property. I don't have time here, but I urge you to review and carefully consider Kimberly Moyna's portion of the meeting from February 6th as she speaks directly to this topic. The discussion of what type of establishment is going to be built on this has been brushed off, but let's be real. We wouldn't be considering rezoning if the developer didn't already have a plan for the proposed bigger commercial lot. I have emailed a copy of an important study on this issue. The bottom line is that many governmental bodies are adding zoning bylaws to discourage dollar stores due to their predatory nature. I have copies of that study if anyone is interested. To quote Mr. Collins again, the message he declared that the opposition is sending is, "We don't want you to use your land. We want it vacant because it's been that way for 30 years and we like it that way." Mr. Collins is not listening to the legitimate objections being presented. He goes on to say, to come in here and ask you to tell an owner of land that they can't sell it or they can't use it or to please blow up a deal for them or whatever is not just improper, it would be unlawful, I would think. In rebuttal, obviously no one is saying that the owner can't sell the land. Nixa City Council can, in fact, tell an owner of land what is and is not appropriate use of that land. His opinion that it would be unlawful is based on erroneous facts. Use of land is dictated by zoning, which the owner was aware of at time of purchase. He fully understood the restrictions. There was a reason for the way the plats were zoned initially back in 1995. This planning was purposeful and well thought out. These plants were clearly zoned in this manner to make it more attractive for residential buyers. It is wholly disingenuous to say that residents should not be surprised by this rezoning. No one expected this property to stay vacant for 30 years, and there have not been any objections to the owner using the land as it is currently zoned. If the owner of this property has some sort of deal that he is afraid this opposition is going to blow up for him, that is of no concern of the City Council, given the fact that he knew at the time of purchase how the property was zoned. I'd like to address Mr. Khan's presentation of the covenants connected to Shady Acres. That covenant does not apply to all residents in the immediate area. Since the owner of land was aware of the covenant limits, he should not be surprised by any opposition. Mr. Collins shared the covenants of Shady Acres with the Planning and Zoning Commission as if they were all-encompassing and in such a misleading manner that it seemed as if every affected resident was bound by those covenants, and that is absolutely not accurate. The commission was given misguidance. As members of the opposition, we do not have time to gather and refute before the commission made their decision. Mr. Collins continuously declares that we should have all known about these covenants when in actuality, these covenants only apply to a small portion of residents. Shady Acres contains 32 homes. The map attached to this bill shows more than 50 homes that are not held to the restrictions of that covenants. The experience of the citizens with the Planning and Zoning Commission gives rise to concern. At the January 2nd meeting, it was announced that there was no quorum. I didn't see any representation to support the rezoning, only about 30 to 35 community members who opposed. At that time, we were told the next meeting would be February 2nd, only for it to be moved to the 5th, the day before the first reading of the bill in front of the City Council, not allowing time for preparations of any kind. At the February 5th meeting, when addressing the commission, Mr. Godby used the word "when" you approve this several times rather than the clearly more appropriate "if." His statements were not corrected by the commissioners. Residents are incredibly concerned that there was minimal thought put into the recommendation. Legitimate concerns were not appropriately considered. The commission used terms such as ignorance of law when deliberating their decision. Remember, that covenant only applies to a small portion of residents. It appears that the commission may have been under the impression that the covenants apply to every affected resident when that is simply not the case. Among other things, I have requested the Planning and Zoning Commission's finding of facts and recommendation. I think it is imperative to ensure that everyone involved has properly considered the rezoning of this property.
Thank you.
Mike Gates.
Mayor, City Council, thank you for having us out tonight. By the turnout, out of those little squares we have up there, everybody, just about everybody in those squares is represented here tonight. And we, the people, are asking you to leave the zoning the way it is. We all thought about this. I was at that zoning meeting back when it was done. That house on the corner there is actually mine. When I walk out my front door right now, just a normal neighborhood. We love it there. I've been there 29 years. I've been in Nixa since 1974, paid a lot of taxes. I love the growth of Nixa. They all love the growth of Nixa. That's why we're here. But that's a neighborhood, and you notice those yellow squares in front of those purple ones? People have front doors that are going to walk out, and they're going to see a semi-truck out there running. They're going to walk out there and see trash blowing all over the place with a trash door that's fallen off. Go look at any of the other stores around. Take a picture of them. Go inside them and look at them. They're trash dumps. Going back to the city and the planning zoning department of this city, I was kind of disappointed at that meeting. They voted with their feelings. They had no data, no facts. Somebody's feeding them stuff and telling them what to do because they want the growth, and those lots all one. Make those all one. Don't tell us to move. Don't make us unhappy. We're happy right now. I'm retired. I'm at my house all the time. Okay? I would love to see a commercial, something commercial go in that red spot up there, those two lots. But if you make this planning and zoning deal tonight with these people and actually vote yes, what you're doing is you're making those lots big enough for them to put a parking lot from one end all the way to the other and all the way back so that they can turn semi-trucks around there. They have to get deliveries. They don't want to touch it on the road. People talk about semis on the road. I don't care about that. Our roads are already coming apart after 30 years right there. Come drive down and look at them. There's water seeping up out of them. Add that semi-traffic, that whole corner is going to be a mess. If you also notice, if they make a parking lot that big, the average parking lot that this customer wants to put in there is going to drain out about 380,000 gallons every hour down the hill. What you're not seeing, see that big blue spot up there? What you're neglecting to see is there's a creek that runs right behind it and goes all the way to our water treatment plant. For that to be there 30 years, we haven't had any issues, no flooding. You do that, you can't tell me that 30 years you don't need some kind of survey. Your stormwater's on the other side of the woods. You're going to have to bring structure over to make these people even where they can use that lot if you're going to do the right stormwater. So, all this information you guys are being fed to, leave those lots alone. Somebody will come in there commercial. You'll make some money somewhere down the road with that, I'm sure. Just don't ruin our neighborhood. Please, don't ruin our neighborhood. I'm asking, as somebody that's lived there that long, don't take that away from me. I'm retired. Let me have the peace and quiet of my neighborhood. Those commercials are down the road from me, as you notice. They'll be down the road from everybody. Don't put them right across the street from us. And I don't care if you make the wrong decisions and have done that to other neighborhoods. Don't do it to us. Please don't do it to us. Please. It's just real simple. We want our neighborhood like it is. You guys can develop it all you want, just don't change that lot or it's gonna be a mess down there. So, 34 seconds left. This is what I'm gonna hear out my front door. "21 seconds left." I want y'all to hear that. How would you like that sitting in your neighborhood across the street? It's not right. We don't need this in our neighborhood. Does everybody understand what I'm trying to say? As a citizen, and as these citizens, listen to us. Thank you very much. We appreciate all of you.
Thank you.
Gina Grigsby.
Good evening, council members, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. My name is Gina Grigsby. Thank you. I live at 232 Shady Acres Drive in Nixa. I purchased my home about 5 years ago. My home is right there. Come on, is this thing working, Kimberly? Okay, right there. That is my home. I've spent the last 5 years making significant investments in my home, like everyone else in this room. And although you've heard everything I'm about to say already, I'm going to take my time to say it again because it's that important to me. This is extremely important and personal to me. I'm here tonight to express my extreme opposition to this rezoning request and share my serious concerns about the potential negative impacts of our community will suffer from if you approve this rezoning. It really doesn't matter what Article 11 of the Credence and Covenants say. That document's 30 years old, has never been enforced. I have the right to say what I'm going to say, even though I live in Shady Acres. There's a much older and much more respected document that is what gives me the right to my free speech. Before I list my serious concerns, I want to ask why. Why is this rezoning a good idea for our community? Do you have enough information? Have you been provided with enough information to even make the best decision about what's best for our community? All of those yellow squares, we are all homeowners. Everybody in this room is going to be significantly negatively affected by this. Are the benefits, the few benefits that might exist from this rezoning, are those worth the significant, huge risks that are going to be involved? Let's talk about those risks. I know you've heard them all before, but I'd like to list them. The absolute increase in traffic, the most certain increase in the number of accidents at the corner of 160 and Sunrise in Maine. The absolute increase in the wear and tear on Sunrise Drive. It's going to require increased maintenance expense. The absolute large tractor and trailers coming in for making deliveries. The large delivery, or the large trucks for trash removal and recycling. The trash and debris that's going to fall out of those vehicles and be strewn upon the streets of our neighborhood and our community. The noise, the additional lights, the lights that a retail store and a large retail sign, a very unattractive large retail sign, parked at the opening in the entrance of our community. It's going to be very unattractive. It's not worth it. Let's not even get into the risk involved in our children of our community and our church. That one risk alone makes this not worth it. It's not worth the risk. If you think so, imagine that any child that were to be injured or, God forbid, more, close your eyes and imagine that's your child. The potential for our property values to be reduced is significant and a huge concern to me and every single one of us. The most definite impact of all the potential risk here is the damage to the peaceful enjoyment of our home and our community, just like Mike said. And I wish I could borrow Mike's audio because sitting on my back deck, that's exactly what I'm going to hear. If you truly feel the benefits outweigh the risks, these risks and many others, that I would invite you all to come over to my home and sit on my back deck. Listen to that video that Mike just played and witness all of the other things that are going to be examples of the extra lighting and extra noise and the traffic and the tractor trailers in and out. and decide if you think that's going to be something that you would like as your neighbor and as your view sitting on your back deck. Please listen very carefully tonight to all the comments, concerns, and objections from all the people in this room, all my neighbors. I believe you've heard and seen enough to know that we are all very seriously upset about this potential rezoning because of the negative impact that it is absolutely going to have on our homes, our community, the dangers, all of the things we've just discussed, the children, our property values. I worked very hard as a single person to purchase that home when I moved here to Nixa, Missouri 5 years ago. I'm very proud of my home. I've worked really hard on it. Some of my neighbors will probably laugh at all the things that I've done at my home since I bought it 5 years ago. But I want you to really think seriously about this, and please vote against this rezoning. This is not good for Shady Acres. This rezoning is not good for Sunrise Canyon. This is not the best we can do for Nixa. Thank you.
Thank you. Pause for
Right.
1 second, Becca. Just a quick reminder, one thing, you guys refer to the covenants as, we do not police HOA or neighborhood covenants. So whatever was said about those, they bear no weight up here. They're not city code, so we don't deal with that. And then just a friendly reminder, please address the mayor and council, not staff. If you do have a question for staff, you can ask that of me. I just might know the answer, but if I don't, believe me, I will ask. So thank you. All right, go ahead.
Brian Wade.
Evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. I don't know if I'm going to get applauded after I speak, but I'll keep it brief. I represent the developer. Did I introduce myself? Brian Wade, 3810 East Sunshine. So the mayor, Mr. Mayor, you just made a point about the declarations and restrictions, and that goes to my first point. So this development started in 1995, and I'm sorry to say I'm old enough to know, or was practicing law at the time, to remember the planned unit development projects in Nixa, which weren't many. But the idea was that Nixa was supporting residential and transitional commercial development in an effort to spur more commercial development rather than just a residential neighborhood. So the plat related to this particular property was, I think, recorded in 1995. And as you probably know, the restrictions and covenants were filed with that plat. And it's got an unusual provision in it, and I'll read it to you, the relevant section. It says, all land between Shady Acres and US Highway 160 may be used for business and commercial purposes, and the owners of lots in Shady Acres shall not oppose, object to any proposed use, development, rezoning, or subdivision of that land. That's what it says in the recorded restrictions. I've never really seen anything like that. I think it's akin to a legal estoppel, is what it's called. I hope I don't get the chance to find out what it means. But what I'm telling you is, for practical purposes, when these folks, these good folks that are here objecting to this, when they bought their property and got their title work, they knew where the plat was. They knew what or at least knew the restrictions existed. And I'm not saying they read them, but they could have read them. And I'm sure it's obvious to them from observation that those properties are undeveloped and not a part of the residential matrix. So they were aware, or should have been aware, that this property was commercial. And it's been that way for 30 years. So my client has proposed to rezone what is already commercial zoning. It's an office zoning designation currently under a PUD that's now not, I don't think it exists, but it's a similar commercial zoning. So what you're being asked to do is approve something that's already commercial. My client already has the option to purchase the other two commercial lots, so they would be combining 3 lots into one section. So that makes it more likely there'd be one thing as opposed to 3 things And if traffic is an issue for the neighbors, it seems that having one thing as opposed to three would be less traffic rather than more. And we know that if it's developed, it's going to create more traffic. If something goes there, it doesn't matter what it is, there will be more traffic. But that's what it's been contemplated as for 30 years. So, it's been that way since 1995. The Nixa Comprehensive Plan has established that this is general commercial for your future planning purposes. It's been vetted by your staff. Your staff recommends the approval. It's been reviewed by the Planning and Zoning Commission, and they voted unanimously to recommend that you approve the zoning. And it makes sense based on all the facts here. So I hope that you will consider the facts, and more importantly, maybe, are there any facts, relevant facts that aren't speculation about why you should reject it? So you don't have a traffic study because it's not required under the code. You have no evidence that there's not adequate water or sewer or stormwater runoff or any of those things. You don't have any issues before you from any salient fact or piece of evidence. You have speculation. And that's not enough for what you need to do. So I hope that you'll consider approving it and allow them to proceed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Rhonda Cole.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for letting us come in and give you our little tidbit on what we have going on here. The main issue is the rezoning. It's not the matter of any type of commercial business going in there. It's the matter of the size of the commercial building that they're looking at putting in there. And that's what everyone is a little bit on edge about. Not a little bit, but everyone is very much on edge about it because of the detrimental impact it's going to have to our neighborhoods and to the houses that are around. I am very aware, and I appreciate what you said about the covenant, but I do want to make one thing perfectly clear about this covenant that everybody keeps speaking of. There was amendments made to this covenant, and the third amendment of this covenant released those 4 lots from the Shady Acres subdivision, which means that the people that live in that Shady Acres subdivision, we do have every right, along with the constitutional right, to tell you how we feel about this program that's going on. So I did want you to know that. We're not all here just, trying to be against the rules. We're trying to take care of what we have going on in our little neighborhood. If you bring that large residential plot in there and you combine those three plots, what you're going to end up with is a large commercial business. That large commercial business is going to disrupt everything that we have going on in our neighborhood, and I'm sure you guys live in a neighborhood as well. When you come into your neighborhood, you don't have a business right on your corner. And it's not like the other Dollar Generals or the other gas stations or anything else that's on these corners of our properties. It's this particular place, it goes right into our neighborhood. There is no buffer road. There's nothing that is going to block anything from those commercial properties with our houses. And that's going to bring in traffic. It's going to bring in noise. It's going to bring in trash. The traffic has been something that has been discussed I don't know how many times, and I sure hope that you guys have taken a few minutes out and driven down there to take a look at just exactly what we're talking about, because it's not highway commercial. That commercial plot right there is in our neighborhood. If the driveway was facing 160, then I could see where that would be a highway commercial property. But this lot right here, this is all in our neighborhood. And I would hope that you guys would think of what you would like to have in your neighborhood, and when you have people coming in to your home that you've worked so hard on and so proud of, that you wouldn't want to have a large commercial business sitting on the corner that's disrupting everything that you know as the entrance into a neighborhood. And that's what's going to happen if we put that large commercial property right there. So what I'd like to offer is my complete hope that you would not rezone that you would leave the zoning just like it is. 2 commercial lots, 2 office lots, not one big commercial lot. That's what we would like to see happen. And I would hope that you would take the time to just reconsider the things that the planning and zoning has said, and that you would look at what the people that are involved directly with what's going to happen on that corner, that you guys would take into consideration what we have to say too. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mrs. Cole.
Bruce Cole.
How y'all doing tonight? My name's Bruce Cole. I live at 218 Shady Acre Circle. Just pointing out the obvious. Look at the size of Sunrise Drive, and then look at the size of Highway 160. Sunrise Drive is twice the size. Now, you're going to put all that traffic jammed up on 160 or even smaller Main Street. That's not going to work, y'all. That's going to be blood on y'all's hands. That's going to be blood on y'all's hands. I don't think you want that. I know I wouldn't. Think about what you're doing before you do this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Carol Lafferty.
Thank you for listening to all of us tonight. I think everything has been said this meeting and last meeting and even in planning and zoning, and I think I agree they didn't make the right decision, but here we are today. The decision is in your hands ultimately, and I just hope and pray that you guys would consider this as far as if it was in your neighborhood, if you lived in this neighborhood, if it was your house directly across the street or that touched one of those purple lots, how would you want us? If you were sitting in our seat and we were sitting in your seat, how would you want us to vote? Would you consider that above politics or money or anything that might be on the table here? Just do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Consider that, and let that be your final decision. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kimberly Moyna.
And a question on this that is up here. Can you, who controls this? Is this back here or is this you, Ruth? Can you pull out and show a wider scope, or can you pull up your zoning map from your website? Okay, yeah, great. That helps. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Hello. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and City Council. I have emailed all of you my statements from the last meeting. Interestingly enough, no one responded, but you can go back and see what I said at the last meeting, because I'm not going to take time to discuss those tonight. What I would like to do is respond to the items that the counsel for the developer spoke to last meeting, Mr. Collins. Sorry, Brian. Mr. Collins is not here tonight. Interesting. But I just want to kind of recap what he said. Mr. Collins stated that the law is clear on this issue, that the intended use of this property has no bearing on the rezoning request. We've all asked you why. Why is the intended issue not important? If you can't take into account the intended use of this property, then how do you know that the rezoning request is appropriate? He also mentioned that you should vote to approve the rezone request because it is, quote, clearly the best use of this property. Yet he failed to state why it was the best use of this property. And again, without disclosing the intent of the developer, he can't convince me or any of my neighbors that creating one large commercial lot is the best use of this property. It's his opinion. And to us, the neighborhood, his opinion holds very little weight. Now, his observations that the property is, his word, surrounded by commercial property is a bit misleading. Now, to the east, all of this yellow, that's residential. This, it's zoned commercial, but this is a church and will be a Christian academy, not commercial property. This property is commercial. This yellow property is multifamily residential. And if you could pull out further, you would see a map that looks like this. Now, I don't know if you can see it. Sorry, didn't mean to put your eye out there. Completely encompassing this. This is us right here in the center. You see all this around here? Do you see it? That's not commercial, not any of it. It's currently farmland, and a lot of it is not even city property. So his verbiage is a little, as Scott would say, disingenuous. So Mr. Collins also said, quote, he was perplexed by the analysis that one large commercial property would generate more traffic than 4 separate smaller properties. But let's not forget, 2 are office. And as office, they may have limited operating hours. They may have static traffic in and out versus the constant coming and going of a potential large box store. And we've already mentioned trucks, et cetera. And I want to say that in the proposal that was given by Mr. Godby himself, quoted in the proposal, it says, the proposed zoning arrangement will add traffic and population to the city's jurisdiction, which will have an impact on a variety of public services in proportion to those increases. So your planning and zoning has already told you that traffic is going to increase. I don't care what Mr. Collins thinks. So I have no doubt that Mr. Collins has familiarized himself with the laws and statutes regarding rezoning, and he stated that there is no law that suggests this is not an appropriate request. And he's probably correct. But there is no law that states you have to approve the request just because they've made it. He says it fits within our city plan. Well, that city plan's getting ready to expire, as we all know, and we are currently working on a new one, Nixa 2045. So don't you think there's a possibility that 4 local businesses in that spot might be better for our community than one large box store? Why don't we promote local businesses? Why possibly bring in a larger single, perhaps national chain that's not going to benefit our community directly? Brian and Mr. Collins both tried to convince you that we just didn't know it was going to happen. Oh gosh, and we just don't want anything to go in there because we just don't like it. Well, if you listen to us, which Mr. Collins plainly did not, we never said that. We said we were aware of this zoning. We said we don't mind something going in there. We just don't want one large item in our neighborhood. We are asking that you keep them as they were originally zoned. So you've already told me you're not going to worry about our covenants. Sorry, paragraph 11 doesn't hold a lot of weight. Anyway. I've run out of time, but I'm going to say that document that supersedes paragraph 11 in my unregulated covenants, that was mentioned before, gives me my right to speak out today, and it also has granted me my right to vote, and we vote for you. So please keep that in mind. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we have no more signed up. I will still leave the public hearing open if you would like to speak on this matter. Yeah, come on up, sir. If you would just state your name and then if you could fill out one of those forms when you're done, please.
My name's Danny Norton. I am part of the Nixa Seventh-day Adventist Church, which, if I operate this thing right, is right here, right there. We just heard about this thing. And we have, for the last couple of years, been trying to buy that property, which we have done. And we are building a Christian school there, okay? So it's going to have a big impact on this area here, which is right there. Our kids are going to be right next to that, right there. Right now, they already have a bus stop right there. And not to mention all the traffic that comes from Branson and Nixa, north and south. And like has been mentioned before, we've got an accident and a guardrail being replaced about once a month. And that's just with regular traffic. If we put a commercial property there, we make that other lot commercial property, we're going to have something huge going there. They're going to have tractor-trailer trucks, okay? Tractor-trailer trucks, let's get down to the brass tacks. It's money, okay? It's going to have a high impact on the street maintenance. It's going to have a high impact on the accidents, the number of accidents there. Our children get off the buses right there, plus the fact that we are going to have a school there, a Christian school, okay? With all that commercial, and I'm speculating here, okay? With all of that commercial traffic, how long is it going to be till one of our kids disappear? Okay? The highway's right down the road. With all that interstate traffic, it's going to happen. Whether it's one of our kids at the church, school, or whether it's one of their kids in the neighborhood, it's going to happen, you know? Plus the fact that you as a city, Nixa here, this is where I live, Nixa, it makes sense to me that we're going to get more money for the city and the county in taxes and property taxes, whatever, if we leave this just as it is, instead of making one big commercial thing, okay? You're going to get more property taxes in just leaving it the way it is. We have office spaces. What about a dentist office? What about a veterinary office? There's all kinds of local businesses that could go in here instead of having a big box store move in. You know, and I'm just pointing out the fact that you're going to have more money. And that's what everything runs on anyway. You know, if you get down to brass tacks, it runs on money. So I guess that's where I'll leave it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. No, ma'am.
My name's Joyce Moss, and I live at 253 West Canyon Court, which is on the south side of Sunrise. Now, the lawyers seem to dwell on Shady Acres, but they didn't take into consideration that all of us on the south side is not bound by this piece of paper they keep throwing in our face and saying that we should already all know about it. Not on our side, because we don't have that. But I am very much against it because of the kids and the traffic that it's going to bring and our property values. So I am very much against this, and I think y'all better take that into consideration. We might be a small portion of the people that vote in Nixa, but just remember, we do vote also here.
Thank you.
paper, I promise.
Wait, I thought you weren't here.
I'm not. You don't see me, so close your eyes. I'm Ashley Darty. You have my address. It's on his paper. In regard to putting a larger box store, I just want to bring to attention, if they are putting a Christian-based school or religious-based school right across the street, would that not prohibit the sale of certain items in this store anyway? What would make that beneficial for them to be limited in regard to being able to sell alcohol within that so many feet of schoolings? I just wanted to bring that to the attention of everyone here. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Angel Dickerson. My husband and I live at 296 West Canyon Court. We're at the corner of Canyon Lane and Canyon Court, right next door to the church. When we bought our home 9 years ago, I'm from Ozark. Grew up in Ozark, son graduated from Ozark. We looked at a ton of homes in Ozark. We settled right here because of the location. We were far enough out of town that had that out-of-town feel, but we were close to town. I don't want town in my front door, because where I'm at right now, if I walk in my front yard, I'm going to look at whatever's right there. And I don't want that. We're empty nesters. I don't have kids at home. My son's 28 years old. I have grandkids, little grandkids, that play in my yard. And yes, I'm out there and I'm watching them and I'm protecting them. But if you increase the traffic, you increase all of those things, that puts all of them in danger. I want to keep my small town feel right there where I'm at and not have it in my face. Thank you.
Thank you. I will leave the public hearing open. All right. I will close the public hearing. And thank you all again for taking the time. Seriously. I did want to share a little bit of information with you. One of our lieutenants ran some reports, and I was a little surprised, honestly, by this. I don't know if everyone just doesn't report when there's a crash or what, because I feel like that guardrail is always dinged up. But so as far as reported accidents, since 2019, there was actually 10 reported. 13 total vehicles, and out of those, pretty interesting reasons to some of them. Driver was rubbing his eyes, drove off the road. I think we've all done that. But only one of them actually was someone turning in to the intersection. So I'm just wondering if there's a lot that just don't go unreported. Got a lot of deer in your area, don't you? Yeah, because there was a couple deer hit, that's for sure. So just wanted to, I just wanted you to know that we do have that information that is as good as it can be as far as what people report.
Can I just add that it's actually a state highway, so I do believe that a lot of the reports are reported at the state level.
Yeah, we searched highway patrol, county, city, everything.
We did too and got a different number, so.
I will.
Just throwing that out there.
Gotcha. Okay. So, anything from council? Any questions? Or any statements?
Yeah, I got one. What can, currently in the office zoning, what can be built on that?
To quickly summarize our table of approved uses, it would mainly be for like medical offices, dental office, veterinarian, of the likes, or even in the technology world, some type of corporate business office.
Okay. If would you have to, could you put a parking lot on that without building and with our current code?
It's an interesting question. We don't see that in Nixa, so I'm not entirely sure. I would have to do a little more research with our legal department on that one, but it's a good question.
I should have researched this before, but Scott, do you know the three pieces of property that are south that got talked about quite a bit today where the church owns? Those have always been general contract or GC?
Yeah, the zoning that you see is the zoning that was originally platted in the mid-90s.
Okay. So the first one seems quite significant in size. I can't remember. And
Yeah, the three on the south side are significantly larger than what's on the north side.
I don't know if anybody here, well, I'm sure somebody here knows this. What time are the school bus stops?
Goes anywhere from, there's a whole bunch of different schools. So it goes anywhere from 6:30 all the way up to 8 o'clock. And then you have the different times getting off from 3 o'clock to 4 o'clock.
And Monday is late start, so it changes everything even more.
Okay.
And there's a lot of kids on Shady Oak and Canyon Drive. There's two different stops there, and multiple buses come throughout the day for the children.
I'll show you exactly where they are. There's a school bus stop right here, and there's a school bus stop right here. And they do stagger. This is my property right here, so the bus stop is in my back corner. And they do stagger. They stagger throughout the day and based on the days of the week. And when there are special occasions at the schools, then those are different times as well.
Okay, thank you.
And also summer school. Yeah.
So whatever the development is, whether someone's going to develop the first two lots or the office and the last two, that part, the plat, all that would come back.
Only if they were looking to combine the lots.
And that's, those 1, 2, the first three have already been combined, correct?
They have been approved, yes. They haven't been
Okay, that's
platted
what I
yet,
was-
but yes, they have been approved to be combined.
Not platted, but, okay.
There's lots of mention of the a church school academy being built right there on the corner and that south side commercial lot. What kind of impact is that going to have for traffic for you guys there?
For the church school or
Mhm.
because of the commercial across the street?
For the church school?
That's minimal.
Okay.
Because you're talking about a church school, it's only going to have 20 to 30 students at max.
Okay.
That's not going to be
So
consistent.
that impact is going to be minimal compared to, and the same thing, the way it's plotted out right now, it's not bad the way it's plotted out right now because the general commercial red that you're looking to do general commercial there, that would be a smaller building and less impact also on the residents in that area too.
Any other questions? Anything else from staff? All right. I will accept a motion. If anyone would like to make a motion on this.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
First by Mr. Ogden, second by Mr. Lucas. Roll call, please.
Matt Ogden,
Yes.
Zern Vest,
Yes.
Darlene Graham.
No.
Could you say it again?
I said no. I have no voice, I'm sorry. But no, I am your voice. No.
Sean Lucas,
Yes.
Aaron Peterson,
Yes.
Kelly Morris.
No.
Mayor, the vote was 4-2. The motion passes.
Thank you. That's the vote.
That was the
Four to
vote.
two.
So the vote was 4-2. We need 4 for it to pass, so the motion did pass. The motion to approve. Yes, the council bill was approved, 4-2.
I'm going to call a 5-minute recess, restroom break. All right, we'll call the meeting back to order. Next up, second reading, Council Bill 2024-06.
Second reading Council Bill number 2024-06, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Nixa authorizing the mayor to execute a Missouri Public Utility Alliance, MPUA, mutual aid agreement for the purpose of allowing the city to participate in the MPUA mutual aid program. Presenting is Assistant City Administrator and Public Works Director Doug Colvin.
Mayor and Council, we've actually been a part of the Missouri Public Utility Alliance Mutual Aid Program since 2005. We've been 3 times recipients of mutual aid that has benefited the community very well. And of course, we've gone out a number of times and do that, return that to others. We've been to 5 or 6 different states and a couple of times right here in Missouri. One thing I didn't make a point about at the last meeting when I talked about this typically doesn't cost the city anything. We get fully reimbursed when we go out. So whether we're going to Carthage to help them or we're going to Jacksonville, Florida, we get fully reimbursed by all of that, or for all of that. Now, we don't always get completely reimbursed for everything, mainly if it's here in town. Some of that depends on whether it's regular hours or overtime hours, that type of thing. But we do get reimbursed for all of the expenses of those that come in and help us. So I didn't make that clear at the last one, and I wanted to do that this time. The current agreement that we're under was updated in 2015. I don't recall what those adjustments were. I think most of what it was some of what this was partially insurance and some of those types of things. I know there's four items in this one that are changed. But the most important one, I think, is MPUA has always had out-of-state members. However, those out-of-state members were never able to be part of the mutual aid program, and we're bringing them in. So we'll have some cities from Arkansas, Mississippi, and Nebraska that will also be able to assist. So this document will bring them in, as well as MPUA has started a line crew. The main reason for that line crew is for them to be able to go and help smaller communities with some things like a Lockwood or somebody that just has maybe a couple of people on staff. But anyway, they'll also be able to come and join us for mutual aid. There's some other legal remedies. Insurance requirements have, of course, changed. We've also inserted some different wording on the limits on claims and suits, damages, that type of stuff. And some of that goes back to actually bringing MPUA in, bringing their crews in as well. So other than that, staff, we've reviewed it. Mr. Woodman had reviewed it prior to the last meeting, and it's our recommendation for you to pass the ordinance.
Any questions?
You mentioned that MPUA has established their own line crew or will be establishing their own line crew. Are those full-time employees, and did they end up getting any of our linemen to join them?
Yes, they are full-time, and no, they don't have any of ours.
Okay.
So, and I don't know that I think they're full right now, so hopefully we'll stay like that. I don't know that we've got anybody that wants to move to Columbia, but.
They're based out of Columbia?
Yeah, they're based out of Columbia.
No other questions? Thank you, Mr. Colvin. We'll open up the public hearing. If you would like to speak on this, do so at this time. We'll close the public hearing. Anything else from council? I'll accept a motion.
I'll make the motion.
Second. First by Mr. Ogden, second by Mr. Peterson. Roll call, please.
Cern Vest,
Yes.
Aaron Peterson,
Yes.
Darlene Graham,
Yes.
Sean Lucas,
Yes.
Kelly Morris,
Yes.
Matt Ogden.
Yes.
Moving on to second reading, Council Bill 2024-07.
Second reading Council Bill number 2024-07, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Nixa amending Chapter 22, Article 2, Division 3, Section 22-79 for the purpose of amending the backflow device inspection provisions. Presenting is Water Superintendent Jason Stutzman.
Good evening. We're bringing back this ordinance to amend it to allow us to hire a subcontractor to come in and test the backflows that are not turned in at the proper time. Usually, when they are not turned in by the end of August, we usually go out and shut their water off and then have to come back in and deal with it. Now, we're just going to hire a contractor to come in and test the backflows, and then the city will be reimbursed we will pay the contractor, and then we will bill the customers for their backflow test through our billing department.
Do we have a plan on how most of these backflow, if like I hire somebody to do my backflow, he does not submit the paperwork like he's supposed to, then you guys come out and bill. We have a plan for how we're going to attack that.
Honestly, no, not right at this moment.
Well,
we do
follow up.
We will follow
Yeah,
up with the
letter
contractors and the letters and stuff. These are the people that won't turn in nothing, and they have never hired a contractor, nothing. They just wait and wait and wait and think the city will forget it. And the other one is usually we've got several commercial people that won't turn in their backflows either, and we've been instructed in the past not to turn them off. So, but the state don't look at it that way. They want everybody's turned in. So this will kind of it'll benefit everybody, really.
Okay.
I'm just curious, Jason, how much does it cost to have a backflow tested?
It just depends on what tester. Average is about $50.
It's usually 40 to 50.
I'm just curious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't have
It's mostly yard irrigations. I'm sure that backflows for commercial buildings for fire suppression is a lot more, but
Yeah. I think more zones, higher it is. So
Yeah.
Just kind of depends how big the irrigation system is.
So if they can do it cheaper, I'm just never going to do mine anymore and just have them bill me.
There you go.
But I doubt that'll be the case. Any other questions? Oh, yeah, definitely. Thank you, sir. No other questions, I will open up the public hearing. If you would like to speak on backflow device inspection provisions, now's your time. That's a nail-biter of a topic. All right, I will close the public hearing. Anything else from council? I will accept the motion.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
First by Mrs. Morris, second by Mr. Vess. Roll call, please.
Matt Ogden,
Yes.
Zern Vess,
Yes.
Aaron Peterson,
Yes.
Sean Lucas,
Yes.
Kelly Morris,
Yes.
Darlene Graham.
Yes.
Motion passes. Moving on to second reading and our last Council Bill 2024-08.
Second reading Council Bill number 2024-08, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Nixa amending Chapter 22, Article 2, Division 2, Section 22-46 for the purpose of amending the city's water rates through 2030. Presenting is Assistant Public Works Director Travis Cossey.
Thank you. Following our initial review of this ordinance at our February 6th meeting, the proposed bill would establish our water rates for the years period from 2024 through 2030. Following the completion of our water master plan that we conducted in last year, it allowed us to hire Schaefer and Hines to take the findings from the water master plan and work on a new water rate structure for our residential and commercial customers. Now, we typically do a review of our water rates every 5 years. It's on a revolving 5-year basis to establish what water rates we need to do to provide monies for operation and maintenance, capital cost, any new hires that are anticipated, as well as debt service, all while maintaining a healthy reserve balance to ensure that the city is able to respond to any issues that might arise as a result of the establishment of our water service and providing that service to our customers. Thankfully, After a review of our existing water rate structures, our consultant, Schaefer and Hines, has proposed that we adopt the same water rate structure that we adopted 5 years ago. This will establish water rates and a change to our base rate structure, but will not affect our consumption rate. In other words, our water bill is split into two separate items. One is our base rate, which is the base rate for water service, and then our second is actually our consumption rate, which is our rate that is paid per 1,000 gallons for residential above the initial 3,000 included in the base rate, and for commercial for every 1,000 gallons of usage. So our proposal tonight is to raise our rates at $1.50 per year for years 2024 and 2025, and then subsequent years from 2026 through 2030 will be a 50-cent increase. And of course, we will reevaluate those rates on our revolving 5-year basis. However, again, that rate will only affect the base rate, will not affect our consumption rate. So we're able to keep our rates relatively low while providing that service that we've all grown to anticipate here in Nixa. One thing to note that I failed to mention at our last meeting was that, as written in the ordinance, this rate will become effective April 1st to coincide with our adjustments for our sewer rate and our electric ECA.
Any questions? Thank you, Mr. Cossey.
Thank you.
I will open up the public hearing on this. If you would like to speak on the city water rates through 2030. I will close the public hearing. Anything else from council? Anything else from staff? All right, I will accept a motion.
So made.
Second.
First by Mr. Lucas, second by Mrs. Morris. Roll call, please.
Kelly Morris,
Yes.
Darlene Graham,
Yes.
Aaron Peterson,
Yes.
Zern Vest,
Yes.
Matt Ogden,
Yes.
Sean Lucas.
Yes.
Motion passes. And now the much awaited.
How do I need to recluse?
We have to recuse ourselves.
If,
Well, last time he kind of said it, so I'm just kind of.
if Mr. Vest and Mrs. Graham would kindly step out of the room, please. For people who don't know, the next, I'm not just kicking them out for fun of it. The next resolution is regarding our contract with the Nixa Chamber of Commerce. Mr. Vest serves on the board of directors for the Chamber of Commerce, and Darlene Graham is an employee of the chamber. So, which is why we've had to continue to postpone this. Moving on, resolution 2024-03.
Resolution number 2024-03, a resolution of the Council of the City of Nixa authorizing the city administrator to execute a contract with the Nixa Chamber of Commerce. Presenting is Assistant City Administrator Cindy Robbins.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. As Becca said, this is a resolution to execute a contract with the Nixa Chamber of Commerce. Our current contract has expired, and Mr. Lyles and Mrs. Isan have been working hard to negotiate this 3-year contract. We believe this partnership is a great way for the city to support Nixa businesses. The contract is similar to the old contract, but had a few noted changes. While the investment remains the same at $44,000 per year, there were a few additional services the city was able to negotiate. Those changes include receiving the benefits of the marketing partnership member level, which will provide a higher level of recognition, not only for the city, but also for Nixa utilities. It will increase our number of tickets to the Chamber Luncheon from 6 to 8. It also increases the number of tickets to the Working Women of Nixa Luncheon from 1 to 2. It provides the city with a table at the Nixa Gala, and it also provides us 4 tables at Nixpo. There is one thing that I did want to point out. The Sucker Day event and the Sky High 4th of July event are not included in this contract. There'll be a separate agreement, but there has been monies budgeted for those 2 events. Staff does recommend approval of the contract. I'm available for any questions you may have for me, but I'd also like to invite Whitney to come up and add anything that I may have missed or answer any questions you may have for her. And as all you know, the city's continued support for our local businesses is vital to the health of our community.
Do I need to open the visitor section before she speaks?
It would probably be best. She was invited to speak
So you
by
can sit back down
staff.
for a second. You can stand up.
She was invited to speak, so you don't
Okay,
have to.
just to make sure we're following.
But yeah, you could go ahead and
Following the
open.
rules. All right. Any questions from council? I will open the public hearing. If you would like to speak on this matter, do so at this time.
Well, I would like to speak. No, I think she summed it up very well. We have enjoyed a good relationship with the city prior to me being here, and we just want to continue that. When I was hired, they were like, hey, by the way, you got to renegotiate the city with the contract of the city. Here you go. And I was like, But Jimmy's been great to work with, and looking over the old contract, the new contract, I think, like she said, is very similar with just a little bit of tweaks here and there. It gives the chamber the ability to hire sufficient talent for the things that we do for the city and for our businesses, as well as it just shows, honestly, our businesses that the chamber and the city have the relationship that they would want their chamber to have with the city that they're doing business in. So I can answer any questions you have, but you did great summing up everything. You're welcome. Thank you. I mean, I'm not supposed to talk to you. I'm sorry.
Yeah, please. Any questions? I would like to say I do appreciate your excitement and enthusiasm and professionalism that you've shown so far since taking over the chamber. One of the hardest things as a city to do is attracting new businesses. That's difficult, and especially being so close to Springfield, Branson. A lot of businesses would rather go in where there's over 150,000 people. But just the help that you provide to our current businesses and directing them in the right place to get answers for whatever it may be, if they're opening a new business or if they're one that's currently struggling. I do appreciate everything you're doing so far. And I apologize for missing the awards gala, even though I'm not sorry because I was in the Bahamas. So much needed vacation.
Well, thank you.
So I appreciate everything you're doing.
Thank you.
Any questions I keep looking down here like there's a lot of people, but there's no one. Okay. Sorry about that, buddy. There's Aaron, sorry.
Do I sit down?
Yeah, you can sit down. Would anyone else like to speak on the contract?
Actually, well,
Yay.
I'm here for a different reason, but I will still speak on this because my name is Nicholas Curtis. I live at 384 North Niagara Drive here in Nixa. With the Chamber of Commerce, I am the commander of Post 434, American Legion here in Nixa. Hopefully, in years past, the Chamber of Commerce really didn't support all businesses or nonprofits in Nixa. So hopefully, with the new regime, that all businesses or nonprofits have the same level of helpfulness from the Chamber, even if you don't donate to the Chamber or you donate thousands of dollars to the Chamber. I hope that each business has the same type of recognition and can get help from the Chamber to help promote them. So that's all.
Thank you, Mr. Gertis.
I just have a question because I'm quite honestly a bit ignorant on the relationship between the chamber and the city. I'm curious to know, does the chamber present any sort of a plan or an annual proposal as to how they attempt to attract more businesses to Nixa and why? And if so, why they support the businesses that they do versus supporting perhaps nonprofits or other businesses that they do not? What is their outlook? What do they hope to bring into the city? What do they think is the correct direction for our city? Is this something that the chamber puts together a promotion and says, this is the direction? Are they going to be working significantly with
Olson Engineering in the new city plan? I just have those questions. That was a bunch of questions,
No, that's-
probably. It was a lot of babbling.
Honestly, that's a very, very good question. And I'm pretty sure I can answer that pretty well. I've been heavily involved with the Nixa Chamber for, I don't even know how many years. We don't do a yearly plan. We stay in contact monthly, weekly, sometimes even daily on what's going on in the community. I will say that I feel like in years past, we've been very reactive to things because the growth has happened fairly
Do you mean
quick.
reactive versus proactive? Is that what you mean?
To
Okay.
helping current businesses or finding new ones. Because it's the chamber with a very small staff, it's hard for them to be able to help all the current businesses and nonprofits within the city while trying to attract new business. We also have a relationship with an organization called Show Me Christian County. That's economic development for all of Christian County. The only downfall of that is, like I said, it's for all of Christian County, so they don't specifically focus on Nixa. But one thing that we implemented, probably getting close to 2 years ago, was we have our own business liaison, which is actually Cindy Robbins. And so she works very closely with the chamber, attends the board meetings, and she's kind of I get crazy ideas at all hours of the night because I don't sleep much. And I'll read a story about a new business that's looking at expanding. And nothing's too big or too small. And I'll screenshot it and send it to her and say, go after them. And then she'll work with the chamber or Show Me Christian County to kind of maybe find location, figure out what would be the best fit for them and the best fit for the city.
So
The
conversely,
downfall-
if you see something that perhaps is not a positive, or if you read an article on a business model that is detrimental to a community, does the city council and/or chamber, or do they involve themselves in a similar manner to say, let's investigate this to see if this is appropriate?
Yes.
And at what point?
However,
I understand you can't tell someone not to do
as early
something,
as
but-
possible, really. And we have came across an instance or two in the past couple years that it was something that was not going to be a good fit, and we were able to address it before. The one problem, though, is not every business comes to us before. The best thing if you're going to come do business in Nixa, and to me, it's not like other cities, especially large ones. We really have that hands-on approach, and we want to walk you through the process of finding the right property, what you need to do for a business license or building or whatever. And we actually just added a new position in the city that is kind of a project facilitator. And so they will help, these new businesses that are trying to come in, locate the right spot that'll best fit their needs. And actually the person that we hired has more knowledge in traffic studies than probably anyone in this building. It's crazy what he can rattle off. So it's a work in progress, if I'm being honest. It's something that, economic development as a whole is a marathon, not a sprint. And it takes a while to really get a good grasp on what you're doing and where you're going. And I'll be completely honest with you, right now we're trying to identify ourselves. What is Nixa and what does Nixa want to be? And you're part of that process. And that's going to be huge because the document that we've been using for the past 20 plus years is exactly that old, and a lot's happened. And so really, kind of like tonight, the more input we can get, not just on a single neighborhood, but as a city as a whole. And the part that's kind of frustrating to us is this what you see in the audience right now is what always happens. We don't get feedback on the 19 other items that we'll deal with in a month. It's usually one. And the fact that you guys stick around, it means a lot and it helps. And I love for people to get up and talk about everything. If you can't tell, I like to talk. And
I don't know anyone else like that.
But that's a good question. And one thing that Whitney and we've talked about is, is doing more updates at council meetings and maybe even, you know, fun videos with her and I where we update on what's going on from a business standpoint in the city and, you know, what we're looking at, what we're doing, and where we're going. So I hope that long thing that I just said
I'm sorry,
addressed
can you
some of
repeat that?
No, not saying that. But this is recorded, so you can go ahead.
All right, is there audio?
Yes. Yes, definitely.
Okay, all right.
And thank you very much for the question.
I do want to add something really quick, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
I believe that Whitney has done a great job in attending council meetings and giving updates and input.
She's the CEO of the chamber. Yep.
Yes. And I know that right now, her and her staff are focusing a lot on the support of our small businesses and our nonprofits. And they can reach out to the chamber, and Whitney is excellent at providing any type of resource that they need or any kind of training, whether it's social media or finance. There's different resources that Whitney and her staff can hook up with our small businesses. And I do know that that's a big focus for them this year.
Yep.
Am I right?
You're nailing it.
Okay,
and,
thanks.
And it's a huge job. I mean, you won't get the chance to talk to everyone, and you don't know what you don't know. It was, I don't know, a year and a half ago, and Nick got up and was talking about the American Legion and kind of how they struggle for funds and how they, you know, what they do to pay their bills, and it just sparked a random idea. And I called Doug, and then I called Nick, and before we knew it, we found another revenue stream for them. It was something we were already doing, and hopefully it's still working out pretty well.
And we appreciate it.
Awesome. So it's just like, you know, you'll have a conversation, you'll have 8 conversations in one day that go nowhere, and then you'll have one conversation that makes a huge difference. And so just keep going. We appreciate it. Am I still in the public hearing?
Public
Sorry.
hearing is still open.
I'll blame it on Kim. She made me go off on a tangent. Okay. If no one else would like to speak, I will close the public hearing. Anything else from council? Anything else from staff? Fair enough. I will accept the motion.
So made.
Second.
First by Mr. Peterson, a second by Mr. Lucas. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? 4 votes, motion passes. You guys may enter. All right, moving on to Resolution 2024-12.
Resolution number 2024-12, a resolution of the Council of the City of Nixa authorizing the city administrator to execute a contract with Water Play for the purchase of pool play structures and fixtures. Presenting is Parks Director Matt Kraus.
Thank you. Evening, Mayor, Council. As presented to you on the January 22nd meeting when we discussed moving forward and getting things bid out for the pool, is an element here that we are going to purchase and provide to that contractor. There's a couple of reasons that we're doing that. One, to save some money. We can get some co-op pricing, some government pricing to save funds. And 2, to help expedite the return of those products to us. There's around a 10-week lead time, and so by getting our order in now, prior to getting the contracting done with the contractor to do the work, we're getting that order process moving. Still getting everything that we need. The 2 main pieces that we'll be getting is the play structure for in the pool, and then all of the fixtures for the splash pad or the spray ground that we'll be adding at the pool. And it's important to note also that those are coming kind of out of 2 different funds. The play structure in the pool will be through our ARPA funds that we have budgeted for the pool repair. However, we're going to use the fixtures and we're going to bill that towards impact fees and use park impact fees to pay for that as new structure or new amenities for the park. And so this resolution just provides us the ability to go ahead and make that order and get these products in the order chain so that we can get those back in time to get the pool opened up. Any questions for me? Yes, ma'am.
'cause I think this is right in my mind. When we put
Get
the new-
really close to the microphone, please.
I am really sorry. You're lucky I have a voice at all today.
Well, if you get closer, you don't have to talk as loud.
I'm going to hurt him. When they put the new splash area, the big slide is going away, right?
No.
No, okay.
The two big slides will remain as a part of the pool.
Okay.
The one small kiddie slide, the Timmy the Tiger Shark, we call him, but in the play area for the little kids, that structure will go for the
Okay.
new play structure that also has a slide.
Okay.
And so we're just kind of substituting that out.
I just want to clear that in my head because somebody asked about
Yeah,
it.
the splash pad will actually go outside of the fence to the
Mm-hmm.
west, and so it won't affect anything inside of our current pool area.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I can bring those plans back up afterwards if you want to see them, Darlene.
No, I'm good.
Okay. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kraus. All right, if there's no other questions, I will open up the public hearing. All right, I will close the public hearing. Anything else from council? Anything else from staff? I will accept the motion.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
First by Ms. Graham, second by Mr. Vess. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. Kind of funny to make you wait the whole night. All right, next up, Resolution 2024-13.
Resolution number 2024-13, a resolution of the Council of the City of Nixa consenting to the mayor's appointment of Nicholas Gerdes to the Planning and Zoning Commission. Presenting is Scott Godby, Planning and Development Director.
Mayor, council, good evening. I'm going to stay seated for this one so Major Tennis gets some camera time behind me. It's been so quiet all night, I had to. As you know, the Planning and Zoning Commission has been one commissioner short for at least 6 months now, since August of 2023. Last month, we did form an appointments committee, which a part of their role is to interview or review and interview those citizens that have expressed interest in volunteering for the Planning and Zoning Commission. So since the appointment committee did meet on February 9th and held an open meeting where we interviewed 6 of the potential appointees to the Planning and Zoning Commission. Through that process, the appointments committee unanimously selected Mr. Nicholas Gerdes. Thank you. His term is going to be backdated slightly because Mr. Joe Gallant, who resigned or retired in August of 2023, his term actually ended in November of 2023. So we're going to backdate Mr. Gerdes to his 4-year term will officially start in November of 2023, so he'll serve until November 1 of 2024. I don't think you need staff's recommendation on this, but we do also recommend approval of this resolution. So if you have any questions, I'm available.
Any questions?
You said his appointment will last till the end of this year, or November of this year?
No,
or
it's
will
a 4-year.
You said 2024, so that's why I was asking.
It would be backdated to November of 2023.
So then it'll be 2027 when his
Correct,
term
yeah.
is? Okay.
November 1 of 2027
All right.
is when his term will
All
expire.
right, cool. Thank you.
I do believe I like this new process. I also think if there's anyone watching from home who did apply for this, we are keeping all of the applications just in case there's another opening, and we will always be accepting applications for this. So then the next time there's an opening, committee will meet again. I am excited to have 7 again. That way, if somebody is sick, like the last meeting, that we'll still be able to move forward and have a quorum. So thank you, and thank you to the committee for your work on this and for meeting with them. Any other questions? I will open up the public hearing if you would like to speak on this. Come on up.
You're going to be so sorry that you said you were happy people stayed for this.
No, I love it.
I wonder if you can, since you're backdating the term, and I speak to people because I just speak to everybody. I'm not pointing anyone out in particular. Thank you for volunteering for planning and zoning. Is it possible, if you're backdating his term, so to speak, to read November of 2023, that like perhaps have an asterisk on there to say that while his term runs from November of 2023, his voting did not begin until? I'm just thinking, we saw what happened here tonight. There was a large contingency of people in a neighborhood that are extremely unhappy with the current Planning and Zoning Commission. We don't like the way the meeting was held. I'm not going to go into all of that. If you want to know, you can ask, but I think y'all know. If I were Mr. Gertis, I wouldn't want to be associated with that committee that sat up here at the beginning of February. So I'm just suggesting for him that perhaps when those of us that are not going to give up the fight and we go back and we look at who is on planning and zoning, that it is made note of what he did and did not have an opportunity to have a voice in. So I don't know if that's something y'all can do, but I think it would only be fair, because it's not honest to say his term started in November of 2023. It didn't. He didn't. So that's all I have to say.
Mayor, I can respond to that. We keep minutes of who is on council, or it would be the commission at the time, and who is attending and who is not. Mr. Gertis will not show up on the attendance list. He will not show up that he was a sitting commissioner at the time.
Yeah, but when meetings aren't even held, there are no minutes.
Right,
So
but
for example, your January planning and zoning meeting, there was no meeting. So there are no minutes. And I went back over the last year and looked at every time. And when you didn't have a meeting, there were no minutes.
if there's no meeting, we can't take minutes.
That's my point. So stating that the information is in your minutes, if I was going to go back and look at the January meeting, you see what I'm saying? There wasn't a meeting. So I couldn't see who was there and who wasn't there. But I could, well, it doesn't matter. I'm not.
No, I know what you're saying.
I'm saying that it's not correct to say he started in November of 23.
That's why we also have the resolution. It'll be stated in the resolution.
And I completely get what you're saying. I think anywhere that it would be posted where the commissioners, it just has the end of term date.
So I keep record in my office of the commission dates. So the resolution will be on file. Mr. Gertis's commission will be on file. It will show that he is running he will have the full term. So the November 23rd to the November 27th, but we have the resolution and the memo attached that will show when he was appointed. So we will know that he was appointed in February of 24.
The term itself runs from November 1 of 23 to
it's just so
November
it's a
20.
4-year
He didn't
term.
get appointed until February.
Correct, yeah, the term itself, the 4 years, we can't change that. The term is November of 23 to November of 24, of 27. But we will keep on file the resolution, the memo, everything that shows when he was commissioned, but we can't change that 4-year term.
And the agenda, the February agenda, will have all of the commissioners listed without him.
Correct, the agendas, the
Yeah.
minutes, everything that shows who the sitting members were from November to now, those are public record. We have that list, and Mr. Gertis will not show up on any of those.
So what would, just out of curiosity, what would be the issue with having his term expire February 19th of 28?
We could, if that's a direction that you want to go. P&Z commissions are just normally the November to November.
Okay. Similar to when I filled in.
Right, the only time
council.
a term would be different, like Charity's term, is not a complete 4-year term, as she's filling in for a commissioner who stepped down. So the same way that Mr. Ogden or Mr. Vest did. They filled in until the next, in our case, it's an election. In the P&Z case, it's when the next term is up to be appointed.
It also keeps that staggering effect. So every November, we have at least 1 or 2.
We don't have a random person falling off in February.
Yeah.
Right.
I understand that. Okay. Hold on, I'm looking at something.
So we're not really backdating his commission. It's just the term stays the same, so you'll never see any of his information before today. That makes
Correct. His
sense?
commission will not be backdated. His commission will
Right.
show his term started November of '23. It'll show that it ends November of '27. It'll just anything pre-February 2024, from November to '24, it just will not show that he was a sitting member of the commission.
He came on a term that was already started.
Correct.
I'm just looking at something real quick. Okay, so it doesn't even list their terms on the website. I wasn't sure. I hadn't looked at that before.
Yeah, all of that information can be found in my office. I keep a
Gotcha.
running list of all the committees and all the term dates.
Okay. Okay. Well, the public hearing is still open, if you would like to speak on this. All right, I will close the public hearing. Anything else from council?
I'd just like to say that the Appointments Committee, thank you for your work on this. It was fast and furious because this was our first one. I think it went very well. It was smooth, and we look forward to keeping that process going.
Well, thank you guys again. Anything from your side? All right. No other questions? I will accept the motion.
So made.
Second.
First by Mr. Lucas, a second by Mr. Ogden. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? When would Mr. Gertis be sworn in?
He and I discussed it. We're going to set up sometime this week for him to come in. So he will be available for the March 5th, March 4th. I'm not sure what the first Monday is. It's either the 4th or the 5th. Once he's 4th. Thank you, Mr. Peterson. He will be a sworn commissioner after this week, maybe Wednesday.
All right. Congratulations, sir. And thank you for serving in both instances of your life.
One's easier than the other.
Sometimes. I was going to say, yeah. Okay, next up, we have a discussion item.
That'll be me again. So staff did kind of meet to discuss this, what is it being called? Alcohol sales during special event permits. We met to kind of voice to flush out any concerns we might have had versus, with expanding where alcohol sales and people can travel with alcohol during special events. Through that process, there was a couple of things that were identified with our current special event permit process that we will probably change, but really we're still seeking a little more guidance from council on this one, because one thing that we're going to change is the insurance requirement. We're going to up that to the state minimum, which will increase cost for the event organizer. We're also going to increase our submittal time, which I believe right now is just for 14 days, but when an event has issues where they need to contract with the police department or something, the police department requires 30 days for that process. So we're looking to extend that out to 45 days submittal before the event. And then there's other things that were considered, the additional cost of police resources, additional signs to identify where that boundary, physical signs where the boundary is to where people are not supposed to be leaving the site with alcohol. And then also a way to identify those that are allowed to be carrying alcohol around, so some type of wristband or anything like that. So these are all changes that we could potentially do. Whether or not, these are all costs that will also go back to the event organizer. So it's kind of, we're seeking, like, it was made, the comment was made during the meeting, is the juice worth the squeeze? So it's, are these going to be enough, or is this kind of where you thought we were going with this? I will add that I did have a conversation with my counterpart in Ozark, Cameron Smith, because we've been asked many times, like, how does Ozark handle the Sertoma duck race, because there's usually alcohol floating around the entire site. Their special event permit process doesn't spell out anything like this. It's more of on the event organizer and the security that they hire to enforce that. So there's He mentioned that there may be something in the liquor license requirement, that there may be like a couple signs throughout that you're not supposed to take, alcohol can't leave this point, but for the most part, they really put the liability on the organizer and their security to really make sure that there's no issues leaving the event site. And one last thing, our current special event permit, the event organizer can expand where they currently house a beer garden or alcohol sales by just increasing basically the fence that we currently require around there. So that is a possibility already, that they can get more space, more open space or anything like that. So again, just seeking a little more guidance. Is what we proposed enough, or are we looking too far into it, or anything like that?
I think the problem is we're kind of a little narrow-minded on this and looking only at Sucker Days, which that's different because of the location, the fact that the streets are only so wide, there's side streets that split off, so it could potentially cause some issues. I know when you get a catering and picnic license through the state, which is what they're required to get to hold these special events, you do have to list out the square footage of the area. You also have to list out, distance from schools, daycares, churches. And so if we were looking at a different location, say it was the field just north of Price Cutter, south of Rotary Park, would we be having the same, would your mindset be in the same place? Because that's just a complete square that's open, where you would have, your taco trucks and a margarita truck, which that'd be awesome. But, so it's just hard to, I don't know, it's difficult because I don't feel with Sucker Days being downtown that this is a one-size-fits-all type of thing, which makes it even more difficult for what you're working on right now. I don't know, the problem is, and just thinking about Sucker Days again, can they really expand that? Because then they would be going into the street.
It's a closed street during the event.
Yeah, but we got to keep some stuff open for police, and in the event there's a emergency of some sort, or someone needs to get out, or usually on day 2 when people have ran out of food and they're having to haul new food in, cutting out that main area would be an issue. I guess my next question would be, how many times, I know the original thought, because I believe that it was also causing people to go into the beer garden and drink a lot really fast and then go out, and that's when there was issues, just in my experience.
Can we not mimic what the state requires to a certain extent? Well, every application you put in, you have to map out and then require them to fence it, sign it, wherever that square footage is.
I think the fencing aspect is unique to our code. I don't think that's a state requirement.
Yeah.
Well, I guess let's go a little above the state. And we don't have to be fencing, but the signage, but each event, instead of having one standard, say each event, they have to map out what they want. And then we have to approve it between the city and, I believe, our law enforcement. They need a big part of that, saying, we don't want this big area or whatever. So
Right now, that process, that is really between you guys, right?
It's internally reviewed by staff, yes.
PD.
Yeah.
And I don't want every one of those to come back to council, just because that adds a whole nother layer and an extra month.
yeah, no, I'm just keep it
but
there,
yeah.
but have it where each application is for that one event, not one size fit all.
And maybe you can shed light on this, what is the goal what would the goal be for this to be changed for, say, Sucker Days?
People like to drink.
Well, yeah. But
Is there other
creating a
events
bigger
that
area.
we could invite, sorry, Mayor.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
Is there other events that we could invite into our city because they would be more attracted by the fact that they could have something? I'm not trying to say, but, Ozark has the Balloon Glow, which is another event that's always looking for space. And I'm not saying that we take that, but there's somebody else who's looking for space to come do it. I mean, we're thinking about what the chamber does. The chamber does a small group of events. If they move the fireworks somewhere, because it's currently at the school, it couldn't be done there, but if they move the fireworks, would that be something? Or other events that happen throughout the year? We have the multicultural, I don't want to throw that out, but that's another that's growing in popularity and growing in size. And, I'm not on that committee at all. I don't know what the future of that looks like, but I'm excited that it's growing. So I think to your point of, I don't see it downtown because I've worked soccer days and it's hard. The very first thing we do when we draw up anything is figure out how we get the fire trucks in and out, how we get the emergency vehicles in and out, and then how the police have access to anything quickly. And that fencing and all that blocking out is difficult. So I'm a little leaning towards Matt still, like it would have to be something that would be specific, but that point of saying they have to provide that. Whoever's producing, whoever's putting on the event, they would need to produce the layout, the lay of the land, and it has to fit all of our safety requirements. And if we say it needs to be fenced, which I think it needs to be fenced or secured in some way. But I don't know, because I go to the Balloon Glow and it's not fenced, but the property's fenced. But I'd like to see, as our parks grow and develop, that we can put on other things that.
Yeah, I mean, because that's a good point when you look at if someone wanted to do an art walk with wine and stuff through the park, that's a lot of plastic orange fencing to be put up.
Yeah, I think we all have the same concern. We don't want it to bleed into the neighborhoods or people who are not supposed to be drinking, and how do we police that? But if some group came in and said they could do it, and they've got some history that they could pull it off, if somebody wanted to put a concert on in the parks or whatever the future of Nixa looks like, and that's part of what their thing could do if they felt like they could secure it and our emergency systems could back them. Matt's like, why do you keep mentioning parks? But a private, there's private land out there that somebody could you could get a picnic license for that.
I feel like Sucker Days is kind of an anomaly, but that's the one that we're looking at because that's where the beer garden is, and that's the one that there's alcohol at usually. The challenges that I see with having Sucker Days allowing a bigger area or something like that is because we have a bunch of residential properties along the way there that people would meander into their yards. We also have a school that's sitting right there that we'd have to block that off and not allow alcohol on that school property. I think Sucker Days presents its own unique problems when it comes to expanding the beer garden. If we were to have it at Rotary Park, I think it's easier to maintain and you have that's like you said earlier, that square area that it's easy to keep within those ranges. So if at the multicultural event, if they wanted to set up a margarita truck or some other type of thing, I think that's people kind of know, hey, these are the boundaries that I got to keep this within, and it's the area of the park. Whereas Sucker Days is down an open road.
I think this will be the first year that Sucker Days will have to deal with recreational marijuana and its availability close by, right? I don't think it was available last year, was it?
Not at Soccer Days, no.
Well, not at Sucker Days.
Oh, yeah, they don't sell it at Soccer Days.
But we'll be on the streets, or it'll be our job so somebody could become impaired differently?
Yes.
Which I think is our concern, that people would be ruining the event for the majority by being overly.
Yeah.
Overly impaired.
So in your conversations with the police and everyone else, what do you recommend?
PD expressed concerns about, they're there for the overall safety of the entire event. They're not necessarily there to expend resources to basically babysit individuals that can't handle this freedom. We did, during our conversation, did talk about all of our normal special events that do have alcohol. So there were some at parks, at the X Center and stuff like that too. So I'm kind of in favor of keeping it as is. But again, it's not my decision, so it's kind of open to.
I mean, because what you just said kind of that hits the nail, because you wouldn't want this event going on over here and then someone going over to the playground and drinking beer while they're, I mean, that just
We do have those events at
has a
the-
bad look to it, in my opinion.
I think that was more of the question is, do we want to keep it as a fenced area? Or
Yeah.
are we willing to open it up and not have it controlled in a fenced area? I think that's more the direction we're hoping for, is an answer to that question.
Well, the one good thing about having it like we have it now is the fact that your trash is pretty much confined to that area.
That's very true.
And that's a major thing, because I picked up a lot of trash last year just
With
from
you.
from the trucks. And it keeps it all in one spot, and those people have a really good time in there. They visit, they talk, they just have a really good camaraderie on there. And the big rides that we have are right outside that. And that's a
Yeah.
concern too, is that people wandering around with all those rides right there.
Well,
Like you said, if you're talking about Sucker Days, that's one event. Looking at opening up other events,
Yeah,
the
oh, yeah.
same rules might not work.
Right, I agree.
So that's why I'm thinking we have to look at everything individually.
One size does not fit all on this, you're right.
Right.
So I'm interested in the way, like, I like the terminology of a secured area, and then I'm kind of on the fence thing. It kind of depends on the layout of the land and whether it should have to require a fence. And I don't know how we put it in there that,
It is fenced.
I mean, you almost put that pressure on,
Or just
unfortunately,
make them when
the police department and the fire department to look at the situation for that event and say, this one would require, because of its location, that it had a fence. If it was, like I said, an event that was being held at a part of the park that could be visually seen, but would be difficult to fence and doesn't need to be, would need to be fenced to still be secured, because it's visibility and range, then that would be something that I think is acceptable.
Yeah,
And
you're
that's
back-
probably what they're saying at the park, but,
Yeah.
like I said, I don't see it downtown, but you were the one that brought up that we need to look outside of that event. And when I look outside of that event, I just want to know that it's secured.
Yep.
Whether we have to vote on that on each time, but I would never make that decision without the experts. You know, I think they know what secured looks like and what it doesn't look like better than.
We did consult neighboring communities' codes on this matter, and some of them are very open-ended, leaving it for staff review to determine what we staff believed would be the right measures to be taking at these events. But our code doesn't necessarily have a lot of those, the leeways in there. We kind of have ours spelled out as to what our expectations are, so we would have to see if our legal department is okay with a lot of that language.
And we don't have to change anything. You know, we asked that they look into it, they looked into it, and it kind of sounds like the recommendation is pretty much keep it the way it is.
I'm not speaking for everybody that met, but that's.
Well, I'm looking at you, so.
And we
No.
have had people put in for special event permits, like, you know, Coyotes has done a thing on their parking lot a
parking
couple
lot.
times.
Yeah.
And that's a whole different thing, it's a one-day thing, so it's quite different from Sucker Days.
Yeah.
Yeah, and all of them have, the point of sale is within like a fenced-in area,
Yeah.
but,
Yeah.
again, they could still fence in the rest of their event and allow people to wander around, but the point of sale right now is the main point.
Yeah.
And this is also something that, you know, right now, the main event areas that can actually handle parking and things like that would be the downtown area and parks. And I don't mind the way that it is right now. And this is always something we can always come back to if other private areas are created or they want to develop some sort of outdoor venue or whatever where people can, you know, drink and walk and all that. So I mean, I'm obviously your guys' input, but I would say the way it is now is probably okay, and we can address it at a later date if we need to.
Yeah, and just, there are still a couple changes that we would probably still bring to you, like the 40 to 5 day submittal prior to the event and upping our insurance requirements for events on public property, basically. So those changes will probably still come, but I imagine we'll still have further discussion.
I don't think there's anything that states I can't ask for comments from anyone else. You go to events. You got any input? Yeah. Come on up.
I think what y'all are struggling with is, do you want to try to control people's behavior or hold people accountable after they start misbehaving? And it sounds to me like our rules and everything are kind of more geared towards trying to control people's behavior, which is kind of futile anyways. Whereas over at the Sertoma duck race and everything, it's more holding people accountable to the rules by having the signs and everything. And if somebody does something stupid, then they get in trouble for doing something stupid. And that's the struggle, is we're trying to fit everybody into one little area. Whereas if it is, fenced off and we have an area that's cordoned with the signs, if people do go over to the park with their beer, you hold them accountable. You give them a ticket or whatever. If they do, get too drunk, then you hold them accountable. You kick them out, send them home. I think that's where it has to be geared. Everybody struggles with trying to control behavior, but governments really suck at doing that. So, maybe it's better to set up a way to hold people accountable if they don't behave and if they don't follow the rules.
Thank you. I mean, do they put signs up at Sertoma,
Yes.
like no alcohol past this
Yes.
point? They just don't have the fencing.
As far as I'm aware. Fencing around.
Well, yeah, sucker days.
And
I'm
we
not
have
talking about
big
sucker
signs.
days. I'm fully aware with the fencing around
Yeah,
sucker days.
There's
but-
signs
And there's
as you head
signs.
towards every parking lot. And so, because with the facility I'm thinking of is kind of fenced in by itself, but I guess you can get to the river and walk up and down that way. But I think
Yeah.
almost any walk path
Just signs
would
with trash
be a
cans.
sign. I mean, there's probably ways to exit the building, exit without being close to one, but you would be walking across grass or something, from what I can remember.
Okay.
I like it the way it is.
I'd leave it the way it is for now.
And we can always come back, and that's the thing. If the chamber has something they're trying to accomplish with this,
They just brought it up one day.
yeah, I mean, to open up the area further, because we do also, not every special event is going to have a school by it.
No.
Not that school is in session during this time or anything, but still, we don't want people taking, but again, you are also accountable for your own actions. So,
And granted, eventually, we will outgrow that area, probably, for sucker days.
the
So we'll have to
attendance
come-
continues to go up.
We'll have to look
Big
at it
time.
eventually anyway, so maybe when that time comes, we can, but for right now, I don't see an issue with how it is. It's worked before, so.
Just curious why they're not selling on Sunday. I know last year they didn't, but the year before they did, so.
I don't think they're doing it this year.
Return on investment for the volunteers. It's a volunteer-based organization, and
Okay.
They didn't make enough money.
And they make
Yeah,
enough
they
money
don't.
to make it worth the volunteers.
Gotcha.
But they don't, that was their statement, not mine. Is there, and not to change it, but is there any input from Ozark on what it's like after one of their major events, or anybody else or any events that we've done that?
He didn't provide any further comments about any issues or anything related to how they handle it. They just kind of leave it open and
I was about to say, to Ron's really good point, that maybe most do behave, and it's only one or two instances that I think we have one or two instances on our own, as people try to sneak it out or leave there too intoxicated and have to be corrected for their behavior. So changing the boundary wouldn't change the behavior.
True. So now that Scott is even more confused.
Yeah, so what are we doing now?
We're gonna leave it the way it is for now.
Just leave it the way it is for now, and then
Minus your
Yeah.
insurance and
Yeah,
all that
insurance.
stuff.
Yeah, lead time.
yeah.
If we had a larger area, like Sertoma does
Yeah.
for the duck races, that might make a huge difference. But we're confined to basically a long block or two short blocks to put this in with a lot of people all in one space. And if they had the room like Ozark to wander around, that might be a whole different ballgame.
Matt,
Someday.
bigger area.
Maybe someday.
Well, that
With
property
no
out there
money.
in Double A.
All right.
That's what we're talking
There you go.
Multicultural function, double A.
Anything else from council? Anything else from staff? All right, nothing else? Meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.